what I want you to do is take the next 3 minutes and I want you just to breathe normally. I don't want you to try to relax. I just want you to breathe normally. And I just want you to be aware of how fast or how slow you're breathing. And so maybe you start off by just breathing and then you start counting and being aware of, okay, how fast am I counting? How slow am I counting? How many numbers am I getting up to? And what I'd like you to do is whenever I say go, start counting, and then I'll tick off the numbers and just see how far you get up to. And every minute, I'll tell you a minute and then start counting again to see, like in the first minute, you may hit 10 or 15 breaths. The second minute, maybe a little bit slower. The third minute, maybe a little bit slower. But I just want you to focus on breathing normally. You're not trying to do the 4-part breath. You're not trying to retain your breath. You're not trying to see how slowly you can breathe. You're just going to breathe normally. And this is just an exercise for you just to be aware of what your normal breath is, just so you have a baseline at the beginning of this. The goal is whenever we reach the end of it, we're going to do the exercise again and see how different the numbers are. So everybody, sit up straight and tall. Take a deep inhale. Let it go. And let's start breathing for 3 minutes. Again, every minute I'll tell you to reset your counter and just be aware of how many breaths you're taking every minute. Just count your breaths. How many times are you breathing in every minute? That's 1 minute. Remember that number or write it down. Take a moment to write it down just so you don't forget it. And now let's begin our 2nd minute. Again, don't control your breath. Just breathe normally. That was minute 2. Record how many breaths you took in minute 2. Now let's start our 3rd minute. Start your counting. and record your third. Did anybody have any significant differences between their first minute and their third minute? Are they all pretty consistent? Awesome. So I know I had a break planned now. So my question is, do you guys need a break? Do we want to keep going and take a break later? What do you guys feel?
Let's keep going.
All right. So let's everybody sit up straight and tall. And so what we're going to start doing is we're going to play around with the 4-part Ujayi breath. I know all you guys are in an advanced yoga teacher training, but I shouldn't make the assumption that everybody knows what 4-part Ujayi breath is. Is there anybody that would benefit from any type of a refresher on that? Okay, I like it. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to cue for the first minute or so. The goal is you want to breathe and hold as I'm cueing. We're going to start off by doing a 4-second inhale, 4-second pause, 4-second exhale, 4-second pause, and then I'm gradually going to start increasing the duration of the exhale. The inhale will always remain a 4 count. If I start counting and you're not able to keep up, stay as long as you can, and then just catch up with us whenever you can. Any questions about the exercise? All right, so everybody sit up straight and tall. And inhale for the count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep breathing at your pace, whatever the right count is for you. If an 8 count seemed easy, move it a little further along. If an 8 count was well beyond your edge, scale it back to a 6 count or maybe a 4 count. Take a few moments and just find out what your edge feels like here. What is the longest you can hold and the longest, slowest you can exhale? What feels the most relaxing for your body? As you're doing this, you'll start to feel your body relax more. My experience is this is kind of like a golf swing where eventually you're going to find that right cycle and your mind will start dropping into that alpha state almost naturally when you find that right cadence of, this is how long I need to pause. This is how long I need to exhale. And I'm completely signaling my body and my mind to relax by doing that. And some of you may be able to find that perfect spot in the next few moments. Some of you may need to play with it a little longer, but just focus on how can you relax by using your breath as your trigger. We'll go for about another 90 seconds. So just focus on how much you can relax. How slowly can you breathe? With your counting, you should be somewhat aware of the difference between the way you're breathing now versus the way you were breathing a moment ago when you took those 3 readings. "45 seconds to go." And whenever you finish your breath cycle, slowly open your eyes. I just want to take a few moments, let you guys share for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Anybody notice any significant difference whenever they were doing that exercise versus the 3 rounds of breathing we did before?
In the beginning, it's challenging. And then by the time you get to 6, you're like, oh, I got this. And then you move to 8 and you're like, oh, I don't have this. And then you're like, no, I got this. So it's interesting. It kind of plays with your mind a little bit.
Right. And because of the durations we were going for, Ashley, all that was about CO2 tolerance, had nothing to do with the oxygen retention, because you all had plenty of oxygen. You all could have gone a lot longer. So the urge to breathe was totally because the CO2 was building up to an uncomfortable level.
Mike, Maria here.
Hello,
Nice.
Maria.
Hi. I really had difficulties in the holding after the exhale. That was troublesome. I didn't have any problem increasing the time, but that exhale, it was always like barely there. I hope he will count again back. Really, really difficult to hold in the exhale, to hold in empty.
Right. And that's just something that, again, it's just a mental trick. The more you play with it, Maria, the easier you'll get, and you'll realize, oh, it's the same as the inhale. And again, if you were diving down deep into the ocean, there'd be a huge material difference between you exhale and you dove down versus you inhale and you dove down. But just sitting here going for 4, 8, 10, 12, 16 seconds, it's not a material difference. Like, your body has lots and lots of air. This is just a trick that your body's playing on you, where your mind is like, I got to have air. I can't live without air. And it's like, no, that's not true. That's just a mind state.
So Mike,
So
speaking of that, Maria Ness was talking about that, the pause after the exhale. It's interesting. It's almost like it was involuntary, sort of a gasp, sort of a feeling. And I'm almost wondering if that is sort of an involuntary thing that your body tries to do, and that eventually you just relax through it. I mean, that's what I ended up doing. But it was at first, it was like my body just really wanted to like jerk and pull the breath in, like almost in a panicky way.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the most important things I learned from training with Wim was the whole gasp response. Like anytime you're uncomfortable, that's your first natural response is some type of gasp. Like you get in the cold water, you want to gasp. You go for a while without air and you want to gasp. And like everything, you start regulating and controlling that response. And you realize, oh, I control the gasp response. Oh, I can heat my body up. Oh, I can not go and gulp in a breath. I can pause for a moment and then slowly take in my next breath. So to your point, Roger, yeah, that is a basic reflex. And as you start playing around with this and realizing those basic reflexes and start overriding them and start consciously acting rather than just reacting from the basic reflex.
Mm-hmm. A couple of people in the chat are noting like that they got hot.
Yeah, and that is a very common experience. So when I first started doing the Wim Hof experience, I initially looked at some of the people that were doing the hyperventilation breathing in the water and to warm up. And yes, that's a way to do it. From my experience, it was this breathing that I started doing and I started warming up. And at first I thought I was an anomaly, but then I started doing more and more research into Tumo. And those Tibetan monks, they're not sitting up there hyperventilating. They're breathing the way you guys were. They were doing this slow control breathing. And you'll start to play around with it and you'll realize you can breathe in certain ways and your body will start to heat up. You can breathe in other ways and your body will start to cool down. And which is a useful thing to know as the seasons change and you're comfortable in the 100-degree summers and you're comfortable when it drops into the 40s or below.
So you were saying like those monks that go in those ice caves or whatever and heat themselves up, they were doing the kind of breathing we were doing?
Yeah, they're doing very slow control breathing. They're not doing the hyperventilation Wim Hof style breathing.
Cool.
you know, we did some survival training in Taos Ski Valley with avalanche control. And that was the first thing that they talked to us about. And they didn't call it Wim Hof. They didn't call it a certain breathing. They gave us a visualization of seeing a big, like a fireplace in your heart, and then watching the little fireballs go out, and they would get smaller and smaller as they would warm up and then come back in, and you were to exhale. And it was, I mean, I am super cold. I have Raynaud's. I don't have good circulation. I've always froze my butt off in the snow. And I'll tell you what, it was the only thing that has kept me warm on some of those crazy days. And I've always remembered it. I just didn't know it was the breathing. I thought it was the fire.
Well, I'm sure the visualization, because back to the intent, the belief has a lot to do with it, Ashley. So keep doing the visualization. And I will admit, when I first started getting into ice baths, I was doing the visualization a lot. Now I just focus on the breath, but the visualization certainly helps. And if you go into like a pure Tumo training, you're absolutely right, Ashley. They are going to tell you do the visualization as part of the exercise.
You know what I do, Mike, and I don't know what you think. I'm curious to see what you would say about that. So instead of counting, I do the Ho'oponopono. You know, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Because I have a little bit of OCD. So I already start counting, you know, random counting. So to me, I prefer Ho'oponopono. It helps me calm down more.
That's amazing, Albina. And were you aware of how many seconds, like when you were doing the Ho'oponopono?
No, it's another thing, like counting kind of stresses me out a little bit.
Okay.
So I kind of let go of the counting, and I hold, like inhale for as long as possible, hold for as long as it's comfortable, exhale for as long as possible, hold for as long as it's comfortable.
Okay.
Otherwise, I feel myself like my OCD part of me starts like, it just stresses me out. And Ho'oponopono, I find it more relaxing.
No, that's awesome, Albina. And whenever we start getting into breath holds, one of the guys I trained with, and he had been doing it longer than me. One of his techniques is he talks about his wedding day, which was 20 plus years in the past, was the happiest day of his life. And whenever he's doing like extreme 4 minute plus breath holds, that's what he's doing. He's walking through every moment of the happy points of his wedding day to keep his mind focused so his mind doesn't wander around and so he can stay in the moment.
There's also, Mike, if I was understanding correctly, there's also something around making the inhale about half as long as the exhale.
That's correct, Roger.
So that's why we kind of got to later. It was like 4 and then 8 and then 4 and then 8.
Absolutely. And
So,
and because you're a very experienced yogi, Roger, you may start to feel that's too easy for you, and you may even go up to like 4 and then 12 or 4 and then 16.
yeah, it was weird. It got easier as it went along, and at some point I was like, oh, this is. At first I was struggling, and then about a minute into it, I was like, oh, this is actually really easy. I think it was just getting kind of acclimated to it.
Right.
By the end, 4 and 8 felt really like easy. It didn't feel like the edge anymore.
Well,
Right.
At first it was like a struggle to get there, but then once I got there, it was like, it was like warming up or something.
Exactly.
Well, Mike, can I ask you another question? So with the ice baths, we're not to the level of ice baths, just cold water from our well in Taos. It's pretty icy cold. So how do you get to that point where you feel the heat quicker? Because I definitely felt like I was sweating, but it took me a little while to get there. Is there a way to get there faster?
Yeah, unfortunately, Albina, it's like everything. The more you practice, the easier it'll get.
So I also found that my heart rate, it didn't so much go up. It just was like I could feel it almost beating in my skin. It became, my heartbeat became super intense, hard, but it didn't put my heart rate up. It just made it like, it was cool.
Awesome.
Can I just say I love how nerdy we all are? How we're like really getting off on our breath. This is so great.
So Mike, how many times a minute do you think we were breathing, maybe in the beginning of the exercise or the middle?
You're talking about when I was cueing you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, so I started off cueing you guys with a 16-second count. And so you're breathing a little bit less than 4 breaths a minute because each breath was taking 16 seconds. So you were not quite making it to 4 before the minute was up. And that's where I started. And then I started increasing time. So again, if you got to the 4-8-8-8, you're essentially doing, that's like a 28-second cycle right there. So you were only getting 2 of those and then starting on the 3rd one before a minute was up.
Okay, because in the very first exercise, when we were just breathing normally, I was breathing about 6 or 7 times a minute, but shallow. So it was just very relaxed, normal for me. But when I started, using my full breath during the exercise, it was harder for me.
And why do you think it was harder when you were using your full breath, Kim?
I don't know. I really don't know. I ate right before class, maybe. I know I shouldn't have, but I was very hungry.
No, no worries. All right, anything else before we move on to our
Is it
next-
always inhale on 4? So you said 4, 8, 8, 8, and then you said 4, 12, 12, 12. It was always the inhale is always a 4, or can it be expanded as well?
You can expand the inhale. You can play around with it however you'd like to play around with it. But I know a lot of other people have played around with it. And the belief is a 3 or 4 second inhale is the optimal for playing around with this and getting benefit. But don't let that stop you, Ashley. Like, do your own research. See if an 8-second inhale, and if you hold for longer, if you do an 8-second inhale and you hold for 16 or 24 seconds, see what that does for you. And I think the most important thing, though, Ashley, back to what we talked about before, is to move into that parasympathetic mode. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's harder when you take the longer inhales, because then you have to have a much longer exhale then to counter that. And unless you're practiced in that, that's my theory as to why the shorter inhales are what are encouraged, because then it's easier to do a longer proportionate exhale to the inhales.
My question is about teaching pranayama, and if there are students who have high blood pressure, or, I mean, would you cue them differently? Would you start the exercise with them differently? Would you,
That's a good question, Sonia, and it depends on what you're talking about. If we're talking about the one that we just did, I wouldn't do it that much differently. Now, if we're going to do some of the more active ones like Vastrika or Kapalabhati, I may think twice about somebody who has epilepsy, somebody who has raging high blood pressure, or significant other health concerns, and certainly not encouraging them to do excessively long breath holds if they do have a significant health problem. But for a 4-part Ujayi breathing, that's safe for pretty much anybody, because you're not holding your breath for an excessive period of time. You're not building up any kind of excessive pressure.
okay, thank you.
And from what I heard, Mike, is like if you did this in a responsible way, it might actually help you with your blood pressure. It could cause it to go down.
It absolutely would help you, Roger. And again, we're not sitting here with blood pressure cuffs, but I'd be surprised if we did what we did. If we took a blood pressure reading right before you started and you did 5 minutes of that or 10 minutes of that, if your blood pressure hadn't markedly dropped. Because back to what we were saying about the CO2 is going to build up higher in your system, which is going to cause your blood vessels, your capillaries, your arteries to dilate. And that will lower your blood pressure. It will eventually slow your heart rate down.
And I guess we ought to, since we're talking about blood pressure, maybe we ought to, I want to ask, I know that my teacher would say, if you're pregnant, you don't hold your breath. And I wondered what Wim Hof or Stig or these other people that you studied with, what they think, or if they've even addressed it.
Yes. Pregnancy is the same thing. Just like, but as you know, Roger, I mean, you always advise people not to go in the hot room when they were pregnant. And how many ladies at Yoga One were in the hot room when they were 6 months plus pregnant?
Yeah, I think my wife taught a hot yoga class like the week she gave birth. So
yeah. So even though it's not advised to be holding your breath when you're pregnant, just like it's not advised to be in the hot room when you're pregnant, I know a lot of people have done it and they haven't had significant adverse impacts. But yeah, extreme high blood pressure, epilepsy, pregnancy is not encouraged to do excessively long breath holding. But again, the Ujayi breathing does not constitute long breath holding. Even if you're holding your breath for 8, 12, 16 seconds at the end of your exhale, that's still not an excessively long breath hold.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions before we move to the next thing? And let me just go back to my screen share, make sure there was nothing on my slides that I felt was important that I didn't cover.
I do want to chime in just a little bit, only because I've been working with This is Cindy speaking. Recently, I had a cousin who was in the hospital due to COVID. And as I would call her on FaceTime, I started showing her some of these breathing techniques as far as inhaling, holding, exhaling. However, the hold was like a count of 3, a count of 2. And by the time that the nurse left my cousin's side of the bed, her oxygen levels had gone up like 8 points, which when you're sitting there debating whether you're going to die or not. And so I'm very happy because she actually left the hospital and she's doing well now. But I just wanted to shine because I did this with her for almost 7 days. I think it was like 6 or 7 days every day.
Right.
And it did help her a lot.
No,
So thank-
absolutely. And that's an excellent point, Cindy. So as they found out from the ventilators and the people they put on the ventilators, the issue with COVID isn't a mechanical issue, it's a gas exchange issue. And if people are trying to gasp for air, they're not getting that oxygen exchange at the cellular level. And so by helping your cousin slow down her breathing, calm down her breathing, her CO2 went up and she was able to absorb more, versus probably she's looking at her oxygen going down and she's panicking. And so she's sitting there hyperventilating, which is making the problem worse because she's blowing out all that CO2 rather than keeping it in. And so even though she's pulling in more oxygen, she's not able to absorb it effectively. All right, so this picture here, this is kind of what the exercise we were doing. And let me go back to this picture here. So the box breathing, and again, the key is start with the 4-part. If they're all equal part, then that's great. And then start playing around and keep the inhale, make it not so much of a box anymore. Make the inhale the same duration, start elongating. This pause, I'm sure you all experienced this, probably the easiest one to elongate. And then second is elongation of the exhale. This last pause is the hardest because your brain's going nuts saying, you don't have any air, you're going to die, you need to breathe. But again, like everything, the more you play around with it, you realize, oh yeah, that's just my brain talking. That has nothing to do with reality. I can last as long on this side as I did over on this side. In the Ujayi, by doing that Ujayi exercise, obviously improves your concentration because your mind is focused on something. And it could be the counting your breaths, or like Albina was saying, the Ho'oponopono, but your mind is focused on something while you're doing this. And anytime you practice your concentration, obviously it improves. You should have felt relaxed at the end of the exercise. And so again, relaxes your body, releases muscle tension. Again, some of you experienced a heating. If you also play around with it, you can experience cooling. And so it helps you thermoregulate by doing this breath. I've done this breath before I sleep for about the last 1.5 years, and I do a 4-8-8-8. And sometimes I start going crazy and start going 4-12-12-12. I think 4-16-16-16 is my limit. But you start to feel your body relaxing. And like we talked about those brainwave states, I felt my body shift from a beta state to an alpha state to a theta state. And then literally I crawled into bed and slept peacefully throughout the night. And so if you have trouble sleeping or you have trouble staying asleep, I would encourage you to play around with this before bedtime. And maybe you add that to your routine. If you meditate before you go to sleep, maybe you add that 4-part Ujayi breathing where you're slowing down your breath, you're elongating your pauses, you're elongating your exhales, and you're feeling your body relax more deeply. Again, people with depressive disorders, they've seen significant benefits to practicing Ujayi breathing. And then obviously improve pulmonary functions for everybody by not gasping in air, but just practicing relaxing as you breathe and inhaling, pausing, exhaling, and pausing. Any questions before we move to the next one? The next is the alternate nostril breathing. This has also been proven to lower stress, improve cardiovascular function, improve the lung function, enhance respiratory endurance, again, lower the heart rate, promote well-being. So very similar to the Ujayi breathing. This is a form of breath that taps into the ventral vagal, the positive side of your parasympathetic nervous system. And now that I've said that, I'm just going to go back and make sure I'm saying it right. Yep, the ventral vagal, positive side of the autonomic nervous system, of the parasympathetic portion of the autonomic nervous system. One thing I learned is the mudra, or the hand positioning. At first, I just thought just have your hand up anywhere and do the nostrils. But I realized the difference when you put your index finger and your middle finger on your third eye whenever you do the alternate nostril breathing, versus just have your hands up and use your hands to do the alternate nostril breathing. So just so you guys can experience that, I'd like us all to start off and just do a few rounds of the alternate nostril breathing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can have big pictures of everybody, and so I can also check the screen. So I see Elena's mother-in-law has dementia. Help take care of her. Also do this breathing with her when she does not know where she's at. Awesome. And is it Aline, or how do you pronounce?
You got it, Aline.
Elaine, you got it right.
Aline, okay. Thank you for sharing that, Aline. Let's all raise our right hands. And actually, let's just start off with not putting your middle finger and your index finger on your third eye. Let's just use your thumb and your index finger to close and open your nostrils. And we'll do a few rounds like that. And then we'll put our middle finger and index finger in the center of our third eye or forehead and practice like that and see the difference we experience. So everybody inhale deeply. Cover your right nostril. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Bring your right hand to your right thigh. Return to breathing normally. Scan your body. Feel the sensations in your head. Feel any sensations you may experience in your right shoulder or right arm. Be aware of your parts of your body that are on contact with your chair or the ground. Be aware of the default state you went back to breathing in. And if you didn't naturally shift back to an Ujayi breath, use this moment now to go back to an Ujayi breath. And again, like warming up for anything, the duration of your holds may be shorter when you first go into your Ujayi breath, but just come back to your Ujayi breathing. Reestablish the pauses between your inhale and your exhale. and a pause between your exhale and your next inhale. And to complete the experiment, let's do the other way. So raise your left hand this time and take your middle finger and your index finger and place it on the center of your forehead. Inhale deeply. Cover your left nostril with your thumb. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Ring finger over your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left with your thumb. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Ring finger over your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Thumb over your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Thumb over your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Thumb over your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Ring finger over your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Inhale through your left. Cover your left. Exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Cover your right. Exhale through your left. Move your left hand, your left thigh. Do another body scan. Feel the sensations in your head, your left shoulder, your left hand. Your points of contact with the ground or whatever you're sitting on. And return to your 4-part relaxed Ujayi breath. Slowly open your eyes. Anyone want to share the experience they had doing that? Any differences they felt with just covering their nostrils versus with their index finger and middle finger in the center of their forehead, or anything else relating that to the previous exercise?
I
I
had a
found-
hard
Go ahead, Suzanne.
I had a hard time with the breath retention both times around. And same with this go around, it felt still very challenging. And when I placed my index finger and my middle finger on my forehead, I almost got like a dizzying sensation, even with my eyes closed. So
That's interesting. I've never heard anybody say dizzying sensation, Suzanne. Thank you for sharing that. Fortunately, you were. Go ahead.
I practiced this breath earlier and I didn't feel that sensation with the, but it's been a day. So not,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
I found after the alternate nostril breathing, the Ujayi was super easy for me. For me, I found it was really easy. I could inhale for 4, hold for 10, exhale 10, hold for 10, and do that. So the alternate nostril breathing helped me with the 4-part Ujayi breathing.
That's awesome, Annie. Anybody else have a similar experience? Go ahead, Cindy.
It wasn't a similar experience, but I do have a deviated septum, and they were talking about that earlier. So I did realize that every time I had to like breathe in through my nostril and breathe out, it was like, so a little bit kind of like Annie, like I would just like focus on the Ujayi, and I was like, okay, it's not through here, it's through the back. So it was like, but I did notice a huge, it was like I probably could breathe 60%, maybe 70% versus on my regular one, I could feel like 90% going in and out. That was a big difference.
And how did that impact whenever we did the pauses, Cindy? Were you feeling the difference whenever we were inhaling through your 60, 70% nostril and then we were pausing? Was that more difficult, or were the pauses not that challenging with the alternate nostril breathing?
I'm not sure if I understood the question, but can you
But
repeat
like
it?
when we breathe in and then we hold for a moment and breathe out, whenever you breathed in through your less than 100% nostril, were you having trouble? Were you like, okay, hurry up, we gotta breathe in again? Or were you okay?
At the beginning, I was, because I felt like I was running out of breath, and with everything going on, I'm having a lot of like COVID paranoia. My husband has COVID and we're in the same house, but he's downstairs and I'm upstairs. So there's this big, huge thing of like, oh my God, is this what it's gonna feel like? But ultimately, because of my situation, so I thank you for doing this, because it's really brought my heart to a peaceful place with everything going on. So you're talking, I feel totally relaxed. I have not said that. I have not felt like that in a few days. So thank you.
That's wonderful, Cindy. Thank you for sharing. All right. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
I have a question about you leading. So when I lead an alternate nostril breathing, I try and do the breath at the same time, and I find that I'm absolutely out of breath and I can't think. And it really, I find that I sometimes bungle it, and then I stop doing it and then I'm fine. Were you doing the breathing as you were doing it? Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Okay, sorry, just ignore me.
No, nothing wrong with that. And it's all about practice, Ashley. Like everything, the more you practice it, the easier it'll get, the better it'll get.
I really preferred my fingers on my forehead. When we switched to that, I felt kind of more centered and grounded. It just made everything a little bit easier for me. I liked that.
Yeah, that's my experience too. It helps relax me more and move me more into that parasympathetic state. And I know that's the case with a lot of people, but I have heard some people that say it makes no difference if they're just doing this or if they're doing this. So that's why I'm always curious to let everybody play around with it and see if they notice a difference for themselves or not.
I like to talk about when that's happening is feeling, connecting that sensation to the breath. And I often talk about picking up the clutter, that holding the breath, let it kind of gather the clutter in the brain. And then I talk then about exhaling the clutter.
Mm-hmm.
That I like that connection to brain and clutter and clearing.
No, that's awesome, Annie.
I also found like this is very grounding. I'm the one, Cindy, who was talking about the deviated septum earlier. I actually had 2 procedures early, not even very many months ago, a couple months ago, because it was so bad. And the reason why is because every time I'd practice alternate nostril breathing, I would get so frustrated. And it was like, not panicky, but like an impatience. And I was like, oh man, I got to do something about this. This is the first time I've practiced alternate nostril breathing since my septoplasty. It's better. So yay.
Awesome, Sonia.
But even breathing, like as I'm listening to other people share their experiences, as someone else said, like just, I feel like, yes, I can breathe more fully after practicing it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Quick question. Speaking about right and left, the energies that are held on right side of brain and left side of brain. When you do the alternate nostril breathing, are you playing with any of those energies, right and left?
Yeah, I don't know if you notice like whenever you started based on your hand, where you took your inhale first and then where you did your last inhale before you before I had you go to your, before I had you move your hand to your thigh. But yes, I am doing a little bit of that. But again, the more you'll play around with it, the easier it'll get for you to kind of figure out what works best for you. But my word of encouragement is whatever hand you're doing, have your thumb be the first thing that you use to cover, and the last thing that, have that same nostril be the last nostril you exhale out of. Does that make sense? So you'd breathe in and then you'd cover. So if you were using your right hand, you'd breathe in, you'd cover your right, exhale through your left, and then you'd go through your cycles. And then your last cycle would be covering your left and exhaling through your right. So it would be the first inhale through the left, last exhale through the right. But in terms of, does it make a significant difference? I think the difference is more subtle and a lot of people may not notice it one way or another. So I don't really want to go into it because sometimes I see a difference, sometimes I don't really. I know we've been going for over an hour now and we have 50 minutes left of our time. Does anybody need a break or is everybody good to keep going for 50? Kim, you want to we want to go for 5 minutes, take a 5-minute break and we'll come back. Thank you for sharing that on the or the single nostril breathing. Is there something else you'd like to say about that? I have no experience with that. I'd never heard of that until I read that article.
Well, it's actually meant for kind of just like alternate nostril breathing helps with balance. This also is intended, like if you know you're sort of overheated, like kind of, there's the idea there's a masculine side and a feminine side, right? From Hatha, Ha and Thad. If you're having like, maybe if you're feeling aggressive, right? you might do Chandra Vedana, which means you do the moon side and you calm yourself down. And if you're feeling sluggish or lethargic, then you might do the sun side, which is the masculine side, to get more energy. So you could just do one if you kind of knew sort of what, kind of what your symptoms were. You could sort of prescribe it to yourself or others to charge yourself up, right? But if you're just out of balance, a little bit out of whack, then that alternate nostril breathing helps restore the balance, right? So it's worth checking out. I didn't mean to derail, but for those of you who want to nerd out a little more, there's Surya Bedna and Chandra Bedna. I put it in the chat, and you can look it up, research it, and so just another avenue. But it's the same technique. It's just on one side over and over. Yeah.
Thank you, Roger. So we'll do the more vigorous exercise first, so we all have time to calm down before we wrap this thing up. So Bhastrika, one thing that I didn't do a lot of until about the last year and a half was the Bhastrika breathing, where you're forcefully inhaling and forcefully exhaling. Lots and lots of Kapalabhati where you're just focused on the forceful exhale. The forceful inhale, similar to what Roger was talking about as far as the right nostril inhale, where it's a very energizing exercise. It engages your sympathetic nervous system. So to move you into that fight or flight, to energize yourself before you're doing things. A lot of the people that I trained with Wim Hof, they did the Bhastrika breathing before going into the cold water to heat themselves up. So it is a very powerful breath. You have a good opportunity to dump adrenaline and cortisol into your system. So back to the 2 hours a day where you want to be doing that. One thing that I've noticed is if you're very used to Bhastrika breathing, my apologies, if you're really used to Kapalabhati breathing, you're probably really good on the forceful exhale, not as good on the inhale because your body is just naturally in that mode where you push the air out as strong as you can using your diaphragm, but the inhale isn't quite as powerful. The goal of this is to do a forceful exhale, engaging your diaphragm, just like when you're doing the Kapalabhati, and then you're engaging your diaphragm and your lungs, and you're pulling in air as powerfully as you can on your inhale. So again, very powerful inhale, very powerful exhale, very revitalizing, very recharging breath. So if the afternoon lulls are kind of getting you and you want to lay down and go to sleep, this is a great way to energize yourself for it. We don't want to do too much of this because I'm sure most of you guys are going to be going to bed in the next 2 to 3 hours. So we'll only do a little bit, but I want to make sure that you guys can experience the Bhastrika breathing, just the forceful exhale, the forceful inhale. I've noticed I get more benefit if I'm using my arms, if I'm inhaling, thrusting my arms up, and exhaling, making fists and pulling my arms down. But again, whatever's appropriate for you. If you have a shoulder injury, thrusting your arms up may not be good. If you feel if that works best for you, do that. If you want to start off by just forcefully exhaling and then powerfully inhaling without the arms, and you want to engage the arms later, what I'd like to do is 3 sets of these. And this is a cumulative type effect where every time you do it, it feels more and more powerful, similar to the other exercises we were doing, multiple sets of. And so the goal is we'll do about 30, we'll stop and rest, just kind of do a body scan when you rest. We'll do another 30, body scan, a third set of 30, body scan, and then just feel the experience of that. And again, I hadn't done a lot of Bhastrika until about 1.5 years ago, was whenever I started making it part of my normal routine. Does anybody have any questions on Bhastrika, how to do it? Yep, exactly like that, Cindy. All right, let's everybody get ready. Sit up straight and tall. Lengthen through your spine. Take a deep inhale and let's begin. Exhale only through, or I should say inhale only through your nose. You can exhale through your mouth or your nose. And rest. Hands on your thighs. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Lift through your sternum. Pull your shoulder blades together. Relax your shoulders. Return to your Ujayi breath. Feel sensations in your head, in your shoulders, in your arms. Feel your points of contact with the ground or whatever you're sitting on. Be aware of the beating of your heart. Let's go for the second round. And let's begin. And come to rest, hands on your thighs. Scan your body. Contact with the ground and whatever you're sitting on. The beating of your heart. Sensations in your shoulders and arms. Feeling in your head. Last round. Let's go. 10 more. Most powerful breaths of the day. And come to rest. Lengthen through your spine. Lift through your heart. Relax every muscle not required to maintain your position. If you're not in Ujayi breathing, go to your Ujayi breathing now. Slowly open your eyes. So the Vastrika improves respiratory and digestive function. Obviously drains phlegm from the lungs, helps things move around. Back to the example Cindy was giving about COVID, if it's possible for someone with a respiratory illness to breathe deeply like this will certainly help with clearing their lungs. It obviously oxygenates the blood, brings more blood to all your organs. All that abdominal work obviously strengthens and tones your abdominal region by moving your diaphragm. It calms the mind and obviously brings more energy to your body. Does anybody have any comments, questions, anything they'd like to share about the experience?
I sort of felt lightheaded.
Yeah, that was probably from all the deep breathing, probably getting a lot more oxygen than you're used to, probably blowing out a lot of carbon dioxide. So you were probably slightly hyperventilating, and some of the exercises we'll do next week and the week after, Sonia, will take that lightheaded to a whole new level.
In a good way.
I'm sorry, what was that, Sonia?
I was just like, in a good way.
Absolutely in a good way.
Okay. Okay.
Kim.
I felt energized and calm at the same time, and my abs hurt.
All right, anybody else have anything?
For me, this is Kathleen. I feel my mood is elevated after that one in particular.
Yeah, a lot of work, and we'll talk a little bit more about it next time, but a lot of work done on people with depression, and almost any type of breath work has been shown to have pretty significant positive impacts as far as mood elevation. Yes, Cindy.
Sorry, I keep interrupting, but this is actually one of the breaths that our team coach has us do every day before we do our tennis game. So this is one that elevates your like confidence, I feel like. So he has us do this every day before we actually have a game.
Oh, that's awesome, Cindy. All right, let's move. As long as Kim mentioned abs hurting, let's go to our favorite ab hurt, where we do Kapalabhati breathing. We'll do 3 rounds of this. The objective is you pull your abdomen in and up, you force the air out as powerfully as you can. Focus your attention on the exhale. Let the inhale happen naturally. And I think I'm actually, the words of Albina when she was training me how to teach the high sequence at Yoga 1 rattle through my head. And I think that was the script I just recited. So just like the last one, we'll do 3 rounds of this so you can feel it again. You want to force the air out. So on the previous version, we were forcing air out and pulling as much in as we can. This time we're going to force as much out as we possibly can. Let the inhale happen naturally. Comments, questions? All right, let's do 3 rounds of this. Pauses between the rounds. Each round will be 50. I'll do the counting, which means there may be a few more than 50 in there, but everyone will love it. You'll all look great from your amazing abs you'll build from doing this. Everyone inhale, sit up straight and tall. Sigh it out. Inhale halfway. And begin. And pause. Sit up tall, lengthen through your spine. Extend the crown of your head towards the ceiling. Feel the sensations in your body. Slowly open your eyes. Let's go for round 2. Inhale deeply, lengthen through your spine. We're putting Cindy to sleep, so we got to do this more vigorously and more energizing. Exhale it out. Half inhale. Go. And pause. Return to your relaxed Ujayi breathing. Root down through your sit bones. Lift through your heart. Slowly open your eyes. Last round. Inhale deeply. Let it go. Half inhale. And begin. And pause. Come back to your meditative posture. Return to your calming Ujayi breath. Go back to scanning your body. Slowly open your eyes. Any comments, questions, anything to share about Kaplavati breathing?
I'll share. I noticed that, I don't know if it's from the breath work we just did, the Kaplavati breathing, or from all the breath work, but my diaphragmatic breathing just felt more natural. And when you asked us to come back to the Ujayi breath at the end there, really I could expand my belly so much more than at the beginning.
Awesome, Lori. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
When we teach the hot sequence, we do a 50, or I do in my studio, I do a 50 at a really steady pace, rather like we were doing today.
Mhm.
And then I have them do an Ujayi breath in between. And then I start them again at a faster pace. And I would like to understand a little bit and the benefits or the differences between a slower and a faster. And also at the end, and I want to just say I'm not misinforming people when I say, you know, you get that buzz afterwards, and I have them pause and say, feel for the saturation of your breath in your body. And I want to make sure that I'm using the correct phraseology for that. Would it be better to say, you know, are we saturating with CO2? Can you kind of play with that a little bit for me? What's really happening in this breath work?
Absolutely. So because you're
Physiology?
forcing, I'm sorry, go ahead, Andy.
No, go ahead.
So because you're blowing out a lot of air and you're focused on the exhale, obviously you're offloading a lot of CO2, and your inhales are much less powerful. So you're pulling in enough oxygen to keep from, even though I'm looking at all these people yawning, Albina's yawning, Cindy's yawning. So apparently we're not breathing in quite enough oxygen because we're getting lightheaded from lack of oxygen and getting the yawning effect, which is a very natural effect from lack of oxygen in your system as you start yawning to pull in more oxygen. So because of this, we're blowing out a bunch of CO2 and we're pulling in very little oxygen, which is why you're getting that buzz type effect, because your CO2 is dropping, as is your oxygen, while you're doing this. You're on mute still, Annie, if you're
Sorry.
talking.
And the benefit?
The benefit of this one? Yep, let me go pull up my benefit slide so I'll tell you exactly what I had researched and what I had written down.
Yeah, the benefits are very similar to Bastrika.
They are.
Yes, yeah.
So obviously the increased blood flow to liver and pancreas, aids in digestion, removal of acidity and gas-related problems. Obviously assists with loss of belly fat because you're moving your abdominal and engaging all those abdominal muscles, strengthens the lungs, increases lung capacity, and again, improves memory, concentration. Does anyone else have anything related to Kaplavati breathing? Laura, I see you smiling and moving towards the camera every time, and I keep hoping, all right, Laura's about to speak up and say something. I haven't heard from her. Or Michelle, who's right above Laura in this Brady Bunch type collage we have going on here. Hey, Michelle.
It does make me feel really happy. And then I like, how though? Like, how does this affect the mood so much? I felt like I was like getting high in a way or something. I don't know.
Right. And we will talk about that more in the later sections, but there's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And by doing this breath work, you're releasing all those. And we're going to go a lot deeper. And in the subsequent sessions, we're going to spend half an hour or more doing breathing. And you think you're feeling it now, you're definitely going to feel it after that, Laura. Michelle.
Yes, I really needed this today. I've had a very stressful day. I just found out my husband just tested positive for COVID today. So he's quarantined upstairs, and me and my kids are all over the board. And so this really helped me. I feel so much more relaxed right now. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you could join us. So the last thing we're going to do, I'm sorry, go ahead, Albina.
Oh no, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed it, Mike. Thank you so much.
So we still have we have one more exercise and then homework. So not quite done yet. We got about 10 minutes. So the last we're going to do is Brahmeri breathing, and that's the buzzing. And we're going to do 3 rounds. The first, I encourage everybody to do as low a pitch as they possibly can do. The second round, I encourage you to do as high a pitch as you can possibly do. And then the third round, I encourage you all to play around and find the pitch that's right for you. And everybody will have a pitch that feels best for them. And the Brahmeri breathing is you're just making a sound like a bee. I'm told the lower pitches are more like a male honeybee or bumblebee. The higher pitches are more like a female. And again, just something like for the first round. The second round will be something like and then the third round will be whichever pitch or sound feels most appropriate for you. So everybody sit up straight and tall. Let's inhale deeply. Buzzing is the way I've always heard it described, Victoria, but it's essentially the same thing as humming. Basically, you're making a noise as akin to a bee as you possibly can through your mouth, but you are kind of humming it. So everyone inhale deeply and let's begin as low pitch as you can. We're going to go for 2 minutes. Once you run out of air, just inhale and keep going. And pause, rest, return to your Ujayi breath. This round, you're going to make as high a pitched as noise as you possibly can. Take a deep inhale and begin. Finish your round. Come back to your relaxing Ujayi breath. Now we'll do the last one. This round, whatever pitch feels appropriate for you, I encourage you to play around with it. So you may start off higher or lower, then you may start shifting as you go through. Everyone inhale deeply. And begin. And pause. Return to your Ujayi breath. And for Brahmeri, the benefits that have been shown is improving concentration and memory, relieving headaches, calming and quieting the mind, relieving stress and anxiety, strengthens and improves the quality of the voice, lowers blood pressure, supports healing of bodily tissues. I did a lot of martial arts, including Qigong, and one of the things that the master I trained with would talk about is the cats, their purring would support their immune system, would strengthen their bones. And he talked about humans need to be doing the same thing. And in Qigong, there's noises that are very similar to Brahmeri breathing that they make for that same effect. Obviously releases cerebral tension. And then, like most of these exercises, it improves the quality of your sleep. I know we've done a lot of things this evening. Any comments, questions? All right, so the homework I'd like to give you is play around with Ujayi breathing, since that is the most important of these breathing exercises, and that's the one you should be doing all the time from the moment you wake up until you go to bed. And I encourage you to get curious about when you're doing Ujayi breathing, when you're not doing Ujayi breathing. And just in case anybody's going to have trouble going to sleep, or maybe we should just get in the habit, or encourage you all to get in the habit, do 5 minutes of Ujayi breathing before you sleep tonight and every day for the next week before we meet, and just see what difference that makes if you spend 5 minutes before you crawl into bed, elongating the duration of your exhales. So strive for a 4-second inhale, and maybe you go for a 6, an 8, a 12, a 16-second exhale. And just play around with it over the next 7 days and see the difference that has. Albina, I'll turn the conch shell back over to you.
Hi.
Oh, I see
I
Roger's
was
joined too.
muted. I want to say thank you so much. I think I'm speaking on behalf of everybody when I say it was excellent and I really, really enjoyed it. And I think Roger wants to add something.
I just want to say, well, my daughter's in there talking to my mom in the background on FaceTime, so there's that. I just want to say thanks. I look forward to next week. So everybody, same bat time, same bat channel, 5:30 to 8:30 online. If somebody wants to join, like a friend, you could tell them they can watch this because they'll register and they'll get access to this, and then they can catch up and then be right on time if somebody maybe wants to do it. Otherwise, Mike, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining. We'll do it next week.
Thank you, guys. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.